Hey everyone, welcome to part 5 out of 6 of my ZBLL series. I know that it's been a while, it's been like I think 6 months since I last uploaded one of these videos, and I apologize for that. My excuse is just that I've had a lot of schoolwork, but today is officially my first day of summer break, and it's 10 a.m., I've already learned all the algs, and I'm going to make this video for you guys today as well, so it's really just the least I could do for making you guys wait for like 6 months, so yeah, without further ado, let's just get started. This is the subset I'll be covering in today's video. I'll just be calling it the U5 subset. Pretty much you just notice that you have these two sort of diagonals here. And so this diagonal here, which goes from like the front right to the back left, these two colors are matching, whereas the other diagonal, they have opposite colors. And so that's how you recognize these cases. This is the first case. It's pretty easily recognized by just seeing that you have this giant block on the left side of the cube. Also, all of the edges are already solved relative to one another. Whatever angle you have it in, they're always going to be solved relative to one another. And you just have a 3-cycle of corners, essentially. And so the alg here is just normal COLL alg. You probably already know it, but here it is, just in case you don't. Pretty much it just starts with an R prime, and then you do sort of a commutator to cycle these three corners. So R prime D prime R, U2 R prime D R, and you just undo. As for finger tricks, I think as long as you're doing your D primes with your ring finger, your D primes and Ds with your ring finger, so R2, D prime push here, and then D just ring finger like that, and that's really the main thing you need to know, and also just double click for your U2s, and so, yeah, faster it would look like this. The second case is really nice because the recognition and algorithm are both really similar to the first one, and so here, once again, you have a block, but this block this time is on the right side of the cube. You also have this bar on the left, which is another way to recognize it. And here's the algorithm. Memorization, it's literally just the same thing as the previous algorithm. So you start with R2 D prime, except here, instead of doing R U2 R prime, you do wide R U2 wide R prime. And then from there, everything else is the exact same. And because of that, the finger tricks are also really similar. So once again, just pushing with your Ds and D primes. And yeah, here is the algorithm, just a little bit faster. Case number 3 is also pretty nice to recognize. Pretty much you just have these two bars along the left side of the cube like this. It also just kind of looks like a JA perm, so that's another way you can kind of recognize it. And so the alg goes like this, so you do a U to bring essentially the headlights to the right side, and you do this alg. Breaking it down, all you do is just take out the pair in the back with R prime B prime R. You're going to do a commutator to cycle these three corners. And you're going to finish off with just R prime U2R. As for finger tricks, I think once again, it's just a matter of making sure you're doing your Ds and D primes like this with your ring finger. I think that's really it. Although actually, for this D prime here, you could either do it with your ring finger, but you could also just kind of drag with your right hand like this. And then R prime U2R. So, yep. Here's the alg just a little bit faster. For this case, you can recognize it by noticing that you have this singular bar on the right side of the cube, and also that these two colors are adjacent. And it's important to make that distinction, that these two are adjacent, because there's another case with this bar, but these two are opposites. And so the alg goes like this. You do a U2 angle to bring the headlights to the front. Recognition or memorization is pretty nice for this one. Pretty much you just set up one F12 pair and then solve it with a commutator. And so pretty much you break up this pair, do a U, you insert the edge with R prime U2R, and then you just have this commutator here, which is just R D R prime, U2 R D prime R prime. As for finger tricks, I like to do this first U move with my left index and just kind of push like this. Double click for this U2, and then R, D, R prime, U2, R. For this D prime, once again, I can either use my ring finger here or just drag with my right hand like this, and R prime. So here it is, just a little bit faster. Here's the next case, and so just like the last one, you have this bar right here, sort of on the right side, but you also have these two being opposites as opposed to adjacent, and so that's how you make that distinction between this case and the previous one. The alg just goes like this. To memorize it, it's a little bit weird, but you pretty much start by doing RU prime R prime to take out this pair, do a D, and you're going to take out this back slot by doing R prime U prime R, then D prime, and then this part is a little bit weird, but you do sort of an R sexy move, and then you just finish it off by solving the square while also solving this pair like this. As for memorization, or sorry, execution, I would just start from home grip, RU prime R prime D, R prime E prime R, D prime with your right index or right ring finger, and then here I would sort of do like a rolling R2 like this, and so it's not like a full-on just R2 like this, but you do sort of R without regripping and then another R like that, and you do a U with your left index, R prime U prime, and then you do one more regrip here to just finish off the R prime U2 R prime. And so it's pretty complicated, but if you can do it correctly, it works really well. I think Timon used this once. And so here's the algorithm a bit faster. Let's try that again. There we go. For this next case, you can notice that you have this bar on the left side of the cube, and that's actually all you need to know to recognize this case. And so here you do a U prime, and this is the alg. Breaking it down, you pretty much start by doing an R2 prime, so R2 prime, F prime, R, and then you kind of do a U2, and then you just kind of insert this pair, if you will, back into the front like this, and you do an F move, and then you essentially just cancel into solving this F12 pair here. As for finger tricks, I would start the regrip here, R2 F prime, and then you do F prime pinch like that, and then R U2 with your right hand, R U2 prime with your left hand, and then here I would actually regrip one more time, and you just do R prime F, and then the rest is pretty self-explanatory, just solving this pair here like that. And so here's the alg just a bit faster. For this case, you essentially have this singular bar, but this bar is kind of on the R face and sort of aligned with the left side, and that's one way to recognize it. You can also just see that there's this sort of checkerboard Z-perm-like pattern on the left side here. And so the alg you'll do goes just like this. This is honestly like one of my favorite algorithms in this, of all the ZBLLs. It's just really fun to execute. And so pretty much the way you memorize it is, it's really similar to one of the earlier cases. You pretty much set up an F12 pair and then solve it a different way. And so here you do R prime U R to split up this pair, then U, and then R prime U2 R just to bring this edge back. And then from here, what you do is, what you can do is you can just rotate and then solve this F12 pair like this. But that's kind of slow, and so what you can do instead is actually do a D prime to kind of bring that empty corner slot to the front, and then just solve this like a pseudo pair, and then do a D move to finish it off. And so I'll just show that one more time. So you set up this F12 pair, and then do a D prime, and you just solve this pair like this, and then a D move. And so, yeah. As for execution, once again, do a push with your left index for this U move, double click for this U prime, or U2 prime, and then you're going to do a U prime D prime, and then the rest is pretty self-explanatory. Here it is a little bit faster, a little bit locky. There we go. This next case is kind of like the mirror of the last one, but it's not actually. But the recognition is really similar in that you have this block, but this time this block is on the L face of the cube, but it's sort of aligned with, like, you know, the right side of the cube. You also have these two being opposite, so that's another way to kind of confirm what case this is. Here's the alg you'll do. Let's see. Setting that up. Okay. For memorization, the first part of the alg is actually just like this COLL, which I taught you at the very beginning of this video. So just like this. It's very similar, and so it's just R2 prime D prime, RU2 R prime. But here, instead of doing D RU2 R, you do a sort of DU prime, and then the rest is a bit different. and this part is really hard to memorize. So honestly, I don't really have any advice for memorizing this, but it's just R prime U prime, R2 U, RU, R2. For execution, the first part is just like that COLL, and so it's really just the same. But here you would do U prime D at the same time. And here you could regroup, but honestly, I think it's possible to do this alg pretty well without regripping. And so from here, I just do R prime U prime. This is a really weird grip, but from here you just do R2 U, R, and then U with your left index, R2 prime. Here it is a bit faster. For this case, I would recognize it just by noticing that on the left side of the cube, there's essentially this H perm pattern. So you have this sort of checkerboard, but these are all opposite colors, so it's essentially an H perm. And if you were to do the COLL alg, you would get an H perm. So that's kind of another way to sort of recognize this. Here's the alg you do. So you do U to bring the headlights to the right. I did that a bit fast, so I'm going to break it down. Pretty much, you're going to do F, and then you do U, RU2 R prime, U, RU2 R prime, and then from here you do essentially a sledge, and then you finish this off by just doing RU prime, R prime, and then F prime. Let's see. For execution, I think there's multiple ways you could execute this, but pretty much I would do an F with this pinch move here, U with my middle finger here, RU2 R prime, U, RU2 R prime, and then this sledge, I think I can just do R prime F, R, and then F prime with this pinch, and then R, U prime with middle finger, F prime. Here it is a bit faster. This next case is similar to the last one for recognition's sake, because once again you have this sort of H perm block, but this time it's on the right as opposed to the left. And so here it is, and this is the alg you'll do from a U prime. It's pretty weird, but let's see, how do I set this up? I think like this. Okay. Pretty much the way I would memorize this is by essentially you take out this pair, you can do a U2 to bring it to the back, and then you do an F2, and then you're going to essentially do an RU2 R prime, U2, and you're just going to solve this square back, and this cancels into solving this last F2L pair like that. So that's how you memorize it. Let's see, for execution, I would do RU pinch here, R prime, U2 prime, and then I would regrip here to do an F2 with my right hand, double flick, and then I'm going to do an R, U2 double flick, R prime, and then from here I'm going to regrip one more time, and then I'm just going to do U2 prime, and then I'm R prime F2 R, and then just cancel into solving this pair, once again pinching for this U move here. It's pretty complicated, but here it is a bit faster. For this case, essentially you can recognize you have this sort of Z-perm checkerboard pattern, and it's on the right side of the cube. And so the alg you do is from this angle. Breaking it down, pretty much it's literally just two algs canceled into one another. And so you start off by doing this COLL, which you might know. It just goes like this. It's actually just the inverse of this case that I showed you earlier. And then you essentially cancel into this back anti-soon. And so you do the first COLL, and you have back anti-soon, and so it's going to look like this. But then before you do this R2, you cancel into that back anti-soon, just like that. For execution, I would start with a regrip here, R prime, U2 double flick, R prime, D prime with my ring finger here, U2 double flick, U2 double flick, and then here I would do U with my pinching with my right index, and then the second U with my middle finger like that. Here it is, just a bit faster. Here's the final case of this subset. And so I don't know the best way to recognize it, but I would recognize it by noticing that there's essentially nothing around this cube, in the sense that there's no blocks, there's no bars, and there's no discernible like H perm or Z perm patterns anywhere around here. Once you realize that this is your case, you'll do a U prime to bring the headlights to the left, and here's the alg you'll do. Breaking it down, essentially you do a back sexy like this. You're going to split up this pair by doing R prime U prime R, and then you'll solve this by doing a U2, and you're going to do a commutator like this, and then cancel into just solving this last F12 pair like this. For execution, I would do this back sexy either by doing the U move with my left index here, or just dragging like this. Either one works. And then I would just do R prime prime R is pretty self-explanatory. Then a U2 with my right hand double flick, and then for this commutator, just R D R prime U prime R. For this D prime, you can either do with your left ring here, but I think the best way is just to drag with your right hand like this, and then just R2 prime U prime R. Here it is a bit faster. That wraps it up for part 5 out of 6 of my Use ZBLL series. Stay tuned for part 6 coming hopefully pretty soon. And as always, if there's ever anything that I can clarify or help you out with, please just leave a comment and I'll be happy to answer it for you. And so, yeah, thank you guys for watching.